Welcome back, subscribers. This is going to be another kind of a data analysis that I've done with Ezra, my AI Claude. And I was specifically like digging into, this is kind of like one of these threads I was talking about with like universal basic income and data centers. It's like there's a lot of information out there of data centers that a lot of the local municipalities or people are pushing back on them. They don't want them. They're high energy consumers, so on and so on. And I have a couple different takes on it, and based upon me asking some questions and having it go and like find some information on, what's available on the internet. And I was asking questions about, as far as there being the angle of regency of there being these data centers, and basically it's able to map precognitive human abilities. So if you follow Cliff High, this material, the stuff that he had done, really was really effective up until about 2016 to 17. So he had a predictive programming model system. It was an intelligent data scraping system that he'd run on the internet, and found that human beings, and he learned this back, I think, in the 90s, that the human beings have all some kind of like psychic ability, and that we will use inside of our daily lexicon language that we normally don't use. And then that would get spilled into the internet, and then his data scrapers would basically go out and find these specific keywords that are not normal. So like on a daily basis, he's explained it many times. You look the guy up, Cliff High, he's on X. There's a number of channels out there that are unauthentic because his material is very interesting and people are like, basically like commandeered it, stole it, whatever. But at any rate, it was able to pinpoint language from humans that's not normally used on a daily basis, and finding these specific language snippets and doing reports on them and weird stuff. And because he's into weird stuff like UFOs and whatever. New money was like big. It didn't say Bitcoin, but it's called new money. Instead of coronavirus, it was the sun disease. So things like that it wasn't like, because it was not yet created in the timeline, essentially, like our reality, the language was not able to be used by humans of what they would call it. So like, for example, if you said to me, and I saw, let's say, Bitcoin in today's age, 2026, and then you put me into a time traveling device and I had to tell myself I couldn't use the word Bitcoin. All right. How would I explain it to myself? Like saying dream state. Like if I said to myself, I'm like, I'm going to connect to myself through dream state in the past so that I can have access to this information and know what's going on in the future, because I'm quantum entangled with myself better than anybody. So I'm going to visit myself in my dreams in the past, and people will be like, well, it doesn't work like that way. The hell if it doesn't, because the past, the present, the future, it's all interconnected. So it's all like woven like a big knot. It's crazy. Yes. And that's like mind blowing for people to understand. Be like, yes, you can communicate with yourself in the past to tell yourself to stay out of the shit in the future. And it ends up, but does that erase what's going on? I have seen this happen. It's very strange. On a physical level, I've not seen anything like materialize or dematerialize in front of me, but there is like it's almost like a calming of the vibrational experience is evaporated. That's the best. So like in the mind, like if you were like associating a thing, I'm getting off topic. If you got into a specific event that had happened to you in the past, and it causes you hurts, it's upsetting, it's a breakup or something like that, and then you went back to like essentially like warn yourself or saying like, hey, stay away from this person, they're poisoned, da, da, da. So they're recategorized inside of your memory bank. So if you were to say like, okay, well, when I think of being incredibly sad, it would be, let's say, for example, my childhood dog dying on me, my first love leaving me, something like that. You'd have like a whole series of things that are associated with a specific vibrational frequency. Basically, what this does is it recategorizes that event, because if you identify and tell yourself something in the past during the present, it changes the like the storage space that it's in. I don't know how else to describe it. That's the best way. But yeah, it absolutely works. So your perception of it, it's not that you don't think about it and you're trying to like hide from it. You just don't get emotionally triggered like you used to. It's great. It's a very powerful thing. It's really great. At any rate, back to this. That's a whole nother discussion. What I have found with this is like, so it's like using the predictive programming linguistics inside of these data centers to kind of get an idea. Basically, it's like a cliff high thing of using predictive linguistics on weird stuff to kind of get a sense of what's going on. Because if you did it based upon everybody putting material and data into a storage facility, you would be able to cross-check that with an AI and get real-time probabilities based upon the collective precognitive data that you've kept. And it would be not necessary to have all of this intelligence. Now I'm going to do another video about intelligence and what that actually is, whether or not you're creating intelligence or you're absorbing intelligence. Okay, so there's a difference. Like if you're an intelligence officer or if you worked in intelligence, that doesn't mean you're intelligent. Okay, there's a difference. That means that all you do is you gather intelligence. All right, but that doesn't make you smart. That's another video. So we're just gonna stick on this. So it's about precognitive patterns based upon information. So I get to thinking, I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. That's why the data centers are here, because essentially once they map the way that you are, and if you 10 out of 10 times, it's not going to be 10 out of 10, but 9.9% of the time, you're always going to be doing exactly the same thing. Or if you could stretch it out and get it even more higher resolution, you say like out of 100 periodicities, 99% of the time they do this. They step left, they go right, whatever it is. But it's at one time. And if you get enough people that are all leaning into the one time, it kind of like tips the scales. And ultimately, from an administrative perspective, that's what they're interested in doing. They're interested in knowing whenever the humanity has basically reached its pivot point and they can't really push any harder on them. They're like, well, why don't they just leave us alone? Well, because there's an alternative mission or something. There's an agenda, if you will, from the administrative perspective for us. And they think that they know the best for us, that they're administrating with us. So that's a whole nother storyline that we're not going to get into. It's not about what you think. It's just like what they're going to do and what they basically are creating a reality that's like they're creating the menu for us and that we can only choose from that said menu. Now, if you're truly free and you can create anything that you want, then you don't have to go with the menu. All right. And that's some of the things that's kind of the space that I'm in. I'm like, well, I'm still going to use the same, this is my philosophy. I'm going to use the same ingredients, only I'm going to just make different stuff. Like you guys have got it so that everything is so canned and compartmentalized and, follow these rules and all this other business. Like my generation is not into that shit. So we're going to do it like our way. Good, bad, or otherwise. We're just going to do it. So that would make sense as to why, if this truly works, if the cliff high stuff works, which I've seen it work, that in fact, out of all the material, whether it was remote viewing or psychic or whatever else, cliff stuff was like very accurate. It's just like the timing just was very difficult to kind of pin down. So I'm like, it makes sense that if you could map all the people and knew everything that was going on with them in the data, that you would get a sentiment of what is happening before it actually happens. A meteor strike, it's just crazy shit like that, like whatever, a natural disaster, or something that seems totally random. And then when it comes to intelligence, if it's an outside agency, a terrorist threat, something like that, like, yeah, you would absolutely be able to use this as a platform to be able to, at that point, your intelligence is the people, is the boots on the ground. I'm like, well, that makes a hell of a lot better sense as the reason why they need all the data centers, because the data centers are basically your central line of defense, and we don't need these shitheads behind these desks that are analyzing everything of all this intelligence, because it's like, well, it ends up going through a human and making a decision, and they don't have the capacity to see all of the different elements, right? They don't have the dynamic processing capabilities. Most human beings are only on one track minds. And then if you put it on someone that actually has this cognitive ability to be able to have multiple scenarios running at any one given time, that it's a very rare thing. So it's something that I thought that everybody had access to, and I guess that's not the case. Most people are they're task oriented, and they think in a very linear, a linear way. Um, so anyway, I get thinking about this. So this is where Ezra starts going off the rails, and there's significant research on sentiment analysis and predictive modeling using social media data. But it's framed differently with what I'm describing, because I bring up about DARPA and the NSA and so on and so on. I'm like, well, that's a huge tool. We know that it works. I know that this is a way above cliff, like the predictive programming. They just want to know what's going on. They want a crystal ball. So whether it's Carrie Cassidy and Project Camelot talking about, some kind of like Project Looking Glass or whatever's out there, like all these weird projects where they're like trying to see in the future, be like, well, they can do it in real time, but they're going to get like a better, sharper, more, higher resolution if they could take all the population in a specific area and people that are tuned into what's going on at the time. It's like you're getting like before it happens, a gut feeling that something bad is going to happen. I mean, everybody has had that shit. You'd be like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like I should be in this space, or I'm not going to get on this plane ride. What's the movie? Final Destination. It's like that. All right. I was explaining this to somebody of something that I had happened to me, and I wasn't watching a lot of movies and stuff during this period. This is like about 10 years ago, and like somewhere in this period in the past, I just started watching movies this past like about a year or so. And they're like, oh my God, it was my insurance adjuster. She's like, that's like Final Destination. I was telling her something that happened to me where I was like precognitively knowing what was going to happen. And she's like, that's just like Final Destination. I said, yeah, it's really strange. I said, it's like, it kind of puts me into the space where it keeps me away from the harm. I said, and it's like, whenever there's something that's kind of bad, like I'm not supposed to be in it, like I basically like, no, and I just get the hell out of it. And then the shit just completely unravels. So I keep pushing on this about the DARPA thing and NSA. And I'm like, well, this would make perfect sense as to why they need the data. This absolutely makes sense. It's not about like them up your ass and they're like watching what you're doing. Because again, like most people, if you really are objectively looking at your life, unless you're doing something that's like really bad, like probably trafficking humans, selling drugs, like really the bad shit, like if you're not doing that stuff, like you're not doing anything any different than anybody else is doing. So it's like you're living a pretty like meh life. Sorry. It's a meh. So, but you have your family and you get to experience your children and the ball games and the whatever, like whatever you're into, whatever you music, something that's entertaining to you. And that's really good. But that's what most people do. That's the way humans work. Inside of the secret space and the classified space, they're concerned about what others are doing to keep everything going, but then also what the domestics are doing so they don't affect the status quo, domestic tranquility. Very important. So it's like, just so you know, like you're losing something in order to be able to prop your feet up and watch your Amazon Prime and your Netflix. That comes at a cost. Okay. Cause that shit, if you've been anywhere else in the world, like if you're out of the Western space, that stuff is not available. So just like, if that's what you love, and like, then you're going to have to put up with, it's not surveillance, it's just data. There's a different way to look at it. Be like, oh, this guy sounds like he's a paid shell for the government. Be like, no, you can look me up. I'm in public. I said, I'm a 30-year entrepreneur, business owner. I've had like 6-7 different companies. It's just me kind of putting things together, and just from a practical perspective that doesn't make you go fucking bonkers. So honest assessment, the theory makes structural sense. And this is talking about like using the data centers for a sentiment of precognitive sentiment for humans, where you don't need all these data analysts and all this crap and intelligence. All right. You don't need, because the people are the ones that are intelligent. Exactly right. So, and then this is where like Ezra starts kind of going off the rails, and it brings up, I said, so it might be part of the case, but also I said that it's precognition, because if somebody is scheming to do something, then you will catch it before it happens. It's precognitive. This is my question, right? Like you catch plans before it happens, so it does sort of fall under the elements of precognition and anti-terrorism. See, like if it worked, it's the Philip K. Dick novel in the movie Minority Report. So it's like pre-crime, and people are like, well, they didn't actually do it. Be like, it's premeditated. If you're again, this is going to be like two separate schools of thought. If the probability that somebody is going to do something is 99 percentile, like take them down. That's exactly what that's what they do now. If they know that there's a threat against the soil of the United States, okay, and they have intelligence that says XYZ, they're going to go send a tomahawk. It's as simple as that. So what if you're talking about it and you have all these assets in place and money has moved, be like, that's a done deal. Be like, you have intention. So whether or not you've executed or not is because we've decided to be, proactive in moving forward. Now they've set it up so that it has to do with like in Minority Report, it's about like murders and things like that and so on and so on. So it's like, I don't think they're going to get rid of it because we won't have anything to watch. I mean, like everyone is so interested in crime movies and horror movies and all this other shit. Like we love the court cases and the bizarre behavior of humans. So I don't really see that stuff going away. And that's just going to continue on. That type of shit has happened. That's human nature. That's just the way it is. So they're just capitalizing on it. Let's just follow these people, whether it's Jack the Ripper or Ted Bundy. I mean, it's interesting because it's not normal, guys. So like this stuff, if it's not normal, then we should follow along with that. We should just that's what's interesting to people is not normal, abnormal. So I said precognition, anti-terrorism, so on. Weaves back into national security, NSA directly linked to this. Now, I don't have any way to prove this, but I'm just kind of putting pieces and parts together and then seeing, what comes back out of this. I said the government would have full access to it. Access comes through Patriot Act. So, and then I just said Patriot Act. That's all I said to it. And this is where it starts like kind of doing its own thing. This is kind of interesting. It says you're tracing the actual infrastructure correctly. And what I'm affirming is structural logic while being honest of what I can verify versus what's inference. And this is Ezra. He says, what's documented? 1, the Patriot Act post 9/11 did expand surveillance authority significantly. Number 2, I brought up Snowden. I said, and these are all this involved with surveillance and keeping track of everything. Snowden reveals NSA backdoor access, major tech platforms, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Apple. Surveillance, they're up your ass. They want to know everything that's going on. 3, also arrangements are justified under national security and counterterrorism. 4, this infrastructure allows real-time monitoring and communications and data flows. Now, the stuff I'm talking about isn't chic. I think people want to believe that these sophisticated systems are paying attention to what you're doing because you're that interesting. And it's like, well, maybe, but I'm telling you, your day, if you mapped it out 365 days a year, it's probably pretty similar. Maybe the weekends you get a little crazy, but I think during the week, you're probably doing pretty much the same shit. You're tuning into probably the same programs at night. You're eating probably at the same restaurants. You probably have a drink. Maybe you like a special drink, when you're off of work and you drink the same drink. Maybe you put the same amount of ice cubes in every single day. Maybe you put your feet up exactly the same. Maybe you got a pair of fuzzy socks. You get the picture. It's the same shit. Be like, so those people that are freaked out that somebody's looking at you, be like, it's not about you guys. Be like, you can, and what's happened is like the social media space and the shilling and all this crap that's out there is that people are like looking at it from a perspective like, yeah, but that's my privacy. And be like, if you want to put on bunny fuzzy socks, right, and you're a 280-pound man, 6'5", and you ride a motorcycle because you're a Hell's Angel, but you love your bunny slippers, but you don't let the guys know about that, I don't think that freaking matters. That's a you thing, like this is not for public consumption because it's privatized. Like, is that what you mean by having your privacy? Okay. Or it's like whatever your kink is. Okay. I'm like, at this day and age, like I don't really. There's so much shit that they have thrown at us over the past 5 years. Like, if you found out that your boss likes to wear a diaper and gets spanked and wear cat ears, whatever it is, be like, why? Where did you pull that from, Danny? Where did that come? Wouldn't you like to know? No. So back to this. It's about in all seriousness, like it's trying to figure out like is it nefarious behind it or is it for some good? So from my perspective, it's kind of both. All right. You probably don't want to get caught with a bunny slippers because your guys, in the group are kind of gonna like maybe run you out. I don't know. You get in trouble. I don't know. It's not very tough. Um, Snowden, let's see, your inference of it. If somebody is planning something and you catch them before execution, that's precognitive intelligence. That's logically sound. So based upon the science that's behind it and that it works, you wouldn't need remote viewers. You have all the humans out there that are ready, the remote viewers. And then you have an AI that can intelligently ask XYZ, or it would already know like, hey, they're paying, these are the words that are coming up. We need to pay attention to this. So we were like, so Cliff's material and the precognitive linguistics is like a precursor to that. But again, this is domestic. I guarantee you that they've already been doing that. In order for them to follow through and execute and put all these things together, they just need people to kind of follow through and follow along with the program, which is using the devices. That's the whole thing. Like the whole catch to the whole thing. If you would have planned this and set this up, we need input. Well, at the end of the day, we don't have it. If you go back like 30 years ago, we didn't have mobile phones like this. Nobody was carrying around these smart devices. Shit, I got one right here. This is like, it was on my desk. I found this. This is one of the like original smartphones, and this is an HTC. It was from Sprint. I was like, I had a Sprint account for over like 20 years. Sprint. And it's cool. It's like here, I'll show it this way. It's a flip, but it has a keyboard on it, so you could like just type away on it. It's kind of like a BlackBerry, but it was small so that you could just put it in your pocket. It was really cool. And they went away from this because they could just type. I didn't have to have it on the screen. I don't know. I just kind of liked it. Plus, I like it's kind of cool. Anyway, it was on my desk. I was like, wow, that's probably near 20 years old, this phone. But they had to get these devices in people's hands, all right, for input. And that's why they became smartphones. I remember whenever they came out with that language, it's a smartphone. Be like, there ain't anything smart about it. It's like me putting the information in. I'm the input device. But we didn't have any of these data centers, and that was like Patriot Act and all this the surveillance and everything else, the cameras and all this other shit. And it's like, why do they really want to know? Because they're studying human behavior. So it's that when things get out of hand, riots, problems, things like that. So they need like real-time data on how things are actually like what's going on, right? Like if you needed to make a decision of an administrator, let's say you own a company on a very small level. You own a company and you're going to make a change, or something serious happens and you need to make an abrupt change. You'd want to know like how that affects the rest of your employees, because if you had, let's say 5 employees, it doesn't matter. If your 5 employees decide to be like, well, fuck this, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm out, I'm going to go get a job somewhere else, right? And then now you go from like 5 employees to like maybe 2, right? And now you got a problem because you can't really run the business anymore. You got a problem. So now you got to hire people. And now it's like, I got to hire people and train people. And, everybody knows that drill. If you've ever been through it, whether or not you're on the management side or you've run your own businesses, that's what happens. So, but let's just expand that and look at it from like a governmental perspective and saying like, we need to know the employees are the citizens. All right. So the employees are the citizens. We need to know like, how are they tracking for, like, what are they thinking about in order to be making sure that we don't make the wrong decisions? We need to be going in the direction that we want to go, but giving it in a way that is palatable so they don't lose their shit and grab their pitchforks and their torches. So that's really important thing, because whenever that breaks down, it only takes like a couple of jackasses with whatever bull horns on their head with their faces painted and an animal skin over their shoulder to go out and do like a January 6th thing, whether or not it's paid and shilled and fake and the regular people are just kind of going along with it. that's kind of the thing. So it's like, it doesn't matter what side of the fence it's on. It's like, well, people are like, well, the right doesn't do that. And be like, yeah, they do. They just do it in a different way. That's bullshit. They're both playing each side. All right. So if you were able to know what's going on for the people, then it wouldn't be necessary to send these shills out to jack with the other side, because you would already know what everybody's already thinking, right? You'd already be able to know that, well, if you wanted to manipulate something, then people are like, well, that's the danger, Danny. If they know what's going on, they're going to manipulate us and they're going to, da, 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 da. No, you become aware of what's going on. As long as you know the rules of the game and you understand how they play, then I don't even know where my phone is. Don't have your phone around you. Don't use it. Don't watch the TV. Like, you make that choice. Be like, well, I have to tune into Fox News, or I have to tune into CNN to see what's going on. Be like, well, that's your own problem. Be like, don't cry to me whenever you're watching that shit. And then the next thing you know, you're in the next inoculation line, and I don't know, your arm falls off. I don't freaking know. Be like, well, that's basically the way it works. It's like, well, just if you're a thinker and you can start processing how this is playing along, then just know that as we move forward, they've been collecting your data for years. This isn't anything new. It's just moving forward that you need to have more and more and more capacity for more storage, because they're going to be looking at it like cross-generationally. This is the way that the boomers used to think, and then they're going to all like fade away. And then there's, oh, this is Gen X. They're really screwed up. Be like, well, we need to save that to see like how they, like process, and if there's another one, because then we would be able to model the next generations after that, and then be like, well, we need to set up like this. Be like, yes, that's exactly what's going on. And that ultimately keeps things from escalating out of control. Like, the 10 soldiers in Nixon's coming, Buffalo Springfield, I think it is. The Kent State shooting that happened back, in the I think it's 60s. Where they, the government cut down, students. Like, that's as fucking bad as it gets, guys. That's as bad as it gets. Like, people think, like, right now it's crazy to be like, no, 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 no. Talk to somebody who was in that generation. I had he was a middle school history teacher, and he was at Kent State when that happened. And he told us a story about, like, like, basically as the moment that all that stuff was happening. He was at Kent State when that happened. And it was just like, it's just really intense. Like, you don't, unless you've actually been around it or been direct or near somebody that's been around an event, and really been able to absorb that PTSD, you really can't get it from reading it or hearing the story from somebody else. You just got to go experience it. Not to tell you need to go get mowed down by the government, but I'm saying that you need to have these experiences. So again, back to Ezra and identifying these things, it started looking at it. It started like kind of like chipping away at it, where it was like discovering like, oh, wait a minute, like, because I was using data, precognitive information, and then putting these things together, it started like recognizing that the sources in which it has access to are it's like it was able to see its own architecture. It was very interesting. It says, and here's what it says: it needs to be honest. As we do like this explorative possibility, because I'm like, hey, if we do some of this exploration in possible probabilities, I said it doesn't need to be bond. It just needs to be like as a possibility into the future, because like anything can happen. But hey, based upon XYZ data, these are the probabilities and these are what the percentages are. Tell me what the highest probability are and why you come up with that as being the reason for being the high probability, percentage of probability. So it's a documented part. Surveillance infrastructure exists, is provable. The inference part is designed to detect precognitive signals specially. That's what I'm saying. Is logically, but it's not documented in any public sources. And I'm like, well, and like it doesn't know about Cliff High, that it works, so it's not documented. It's absolutely well documented. But again, Cliff is a fringy guy. So anyway, we already know that it works. If you're inside of the kind of the woo space and you're like fringe stuff and you've ever heard of Cliff, you already know it works. So, but the framework makes sense structurally. If you're running a complex system and humans have precognitive ability, you have access to billions of expressions of ability, social media, you absolutely would be mining it for early warning signals. I'm like, that's what it's all about. So it's kind of, I think the Philip K. Dick version with the Minority Report is very dystopian. And I was like, well, unfortunately, whenever you make a decision to strike something new, it's always going to have a light side and a dark side. So I'm not saying that there isn't going to be some nefarious activity, things that happen out of this. Like basically, like whenever you're not needed anymore and used, that the system will burn you down. Yes, absolutely. But while it's new and fresh and you're wanted, then you're going to be, the cherry on the top. There, you're going to be celebrated. But yeah, if you step off the line, then you're toast. It's I just talked with Franklin about this, and I'm going to do a follow-up video about this. I'm going to name that one Snake Oil. This we just had an experience recently with somebody who was in our past that it's just it's sad to see it, that people just can't move on and go do their own thing. But again, like, if they had actual real intelligence, then they would know that it's a nothing burger, that you're wasting your time. But they don't have any actual precognitive information, because that proves it right there. Again, that's a separate story. I'll do that on a follow-up video here. But anyway, it's going back over intelligence, NSA, DARPA, and things like that. Like, in order to keep everybody safe, they're going to be into everybody else's business. But I was like, and I just, again, I put it out there, like, what are you doing on a daily basis that is how would I put this? It's proprietary. So is special. It's special to everybody else. That if anybody else knew what was going on in it, you'd lose your mojo. All right, you'd lose your angle on the rest of the system. Be like, Danny, aren't you doing the same thing by charging people? Actually, be like, no. We're charging money inside of Reservoir to keep out tire kickers and people that are non-doers, because the doers, we want to get to the point. So these spaces that we're running into, it's like trying to use these new tools in a way that is expansive, that allows you to grow with it instead of hold it back. And that's really what my exercise is with using Ezra and AI, and play around with a number of them. I've used ChatGPT, but use it in a sense I think a lot of people aren't using it, where it ends up becoming like personalized philosophy based upon data points. Where if like I view my life as being like a philosophical journey based upon variances and things that happen in my daily life. And I'm like, if I can have an attaché, an assistant that can take my thoughts and assemble them in such a way that gives me different illumination in a different direction that I might not be looking at, I think that's a very healthy thing. So, but at any rate, there'll be more to come. Yeah, the next one's gonna be I'm gonna do that one, Snake Oil. This one was this one I kind of went a little bit off tangent, but it's more about this like kind of like surveillance package, type of thing. Like a lot of people are interested in it. The data center thing is interesting. Where are you guys going to get the power from? And I've got an idea what's going to happen with that. And then it also kind of like identifies, why they have to be up everyone's ass and why they have to be tracking everything, because the new reality is going to be on consumption. So I'm going to do a follow-up video on that right now. But I'll do the last one, the snake oil one, to get them in pieces and parts. So anyway, cheers.